Hey guys, Kirk here and thank you for joining me on a new video on my channel. First of all, I would like to thank everyone that is showing their support by subscribing and liking my videos and supporting the Discord I'm a part of. It's great. If you're not in the Discord, then jump in and say hello. That would be great. Anyway, in this video it's going to follow on from the previous video where we created a tiling function, a master material, and we applied a couple of paint layers to that master material with a little bit of blending for each layer. In this video it's going to be about distance tiling, my mistake. So what this is basically the tiling up close to the camera here, like in this patch you can see. It's going to be that size, and in the distance, like on the mountains, it's just going to be a larger texture. It's going to be the same texture, but the further away the texture gets from the camera, the larger it will get. So that's what we're going to cover in this video. If you followed along from the last video, there is a couple of changes I've made. If you would like to keep your eyes peeled, I will tell you the changes. Just simply pause the video and make the changes in your function and your landscape material. So in the tiling function, the changes I made, I simply add a texture coordinate for each of these divides. As you can see here, I've basically deleted them texture coordinates and got rid of them, and I've right clicked on the shader graph and typed in landscape and gone down to layer coordinates, clicked on that and got a landscape layer coordinate. It's the same as that, and just dragged that into each pin of these divides where the texture coordinates went. This will serve better in future videos that I have planned for our master material. So if you want to pause the video and just make them changes, that'll be great, and when you get back we shall go over the next changes. I'll delete that. In the landscape master material, you can see here I have got a tiling rotation that is in the function, but I've left it down here. We'll get around to that in the next video, I've decided, but don't worry about it, you don't have to copy it. I will be going through that in detail in the next video. But in here I've basically, from having one scalar parameter to change the blending of both layers, I've set each layer their own individual scaling parameter. So to do that, you will just simply change the name to maybe from just blending to layer 1 blending, and if you pause the video and copy them defaults if you want, and that went into the other cheap contrast as well. So you could just duplicate that once you've made them changes and just double click on the 1 and put a number 2, and that will basically separate them in the material instance, which you will see later on in the video. So yeah, distance blending. What distance blending does on a more detailed level, like I said, is the tiling here, you can see evident, is at a alright size, but on the mountain and on these alcoves here, they are much smaller, and the smaller they get, the further they go. All we're going to do is swing that around. If you followed from the last video, you'll see that the landscape looks a little different. All I have done is gone into landscaping mode by clicking on landscape or shift 2. I've right clicked on layer 2, which is our grass layer, right clicked on it and just clicked fill layer, and then I clicked on layer 1, which is our rock layer, and hand painted these this rock layer, paint layer, onto the mountain and these alcoves to semi imitate a slope layer, but I have hand painted that myself. I've also created camera bookmarks, so I've got 1 and 2, which will just help later in the video to test our distance, like so. And to create them bookmarks, you simply hold left control, move your camera to where you want it, hold left control, press 1, move it again to wherever else you want it, hold left control and press 2. If you did not see the video before this one, I would highly recommend going checking it out, as you will then be up to date. So after that, come back and you'll be up to date, like I say. Okay, so let's get into our master material here and start creating our material. So we have near tiling and distant tiling capabilities. So what I'm going to do is just hover over this, move it away out of the way so I have a bit more room. And you see layer 1 here, I'm going to move this up some, like so. We'll zoom out a bit. And layer 2, I'm going to move that down some, like so. I'm going to move this out to give myself some space. So I'm not being funny, but if I do that, and what does that? All the needles, like, it looks like a pair of lips, doesn't it? Like someone's shouting, "Oi, Kirk." Anyway, enough of that. So what we do need to do first is to separate these textures. So I have 3 texture samples. We do need to duplicate these, as one set of texture samples will be the near tiling and the other set will be the distant tiling. So you will simply highlight all the texture samples, move your mouse to where you want to duplicate, and simply hold left control and D, and it will duplicate them texture samples wherever your mouse is. Highlight them again and move them in. So now I have 2 sets of texture samples. I'm going to move these out a little bit and break my lips up. For organisation purposes only, I'm going to swap these texture samples around a bit so they're a little bit more organised, like so. No, I'm not actually. No, I've got a different idea to better organise it. I'm going to put them back to where they were. I'm going to move that up so they're a little bit neater, like so. A bit neat. Yeah, that's what we want. And then I'm going to move this down a bit, and I'm going to put that up there, and I'm going to put that up there. So near tiling's on top, far tiling is below near tiling. So what I'm going to do is highlight these 3, press C on the keyboard and put near dash tiling, like so. And then I am going to highlight these, press C and put far dash tiling. So let's pull that back one. And so now I have 2 comments with which one's which. I'm going to pull that down a bit so at this range we can see clearly what they are. I'm quickly going to hold left alt down and remove these UVs out of here, out the pins. As you can see, I'm hovering over the UV input node pin, holding left alt and simply left clicking, and it gets rid of the noodle out of there. It works on every single pin. And this is near tiling, so what I'm going to do is come to my tiling function, hold left control down, hover over the out pin where them noodles are going in, click and hold and move this into near tiling and simply let go, and there you go. Now we've got all the noodles going into near. What I need to do is simply grab some UVs of these texture samples and put these into the far tiling pin, like so. There we go. As you can see, you get an error on the function. That's normal. It's because we have not got the parameters here yet. We shall do that now. So what I'm just going to delete that one. I'm going to move the function up, and this is going to be our material function, tiling function for this layer. And then I'll move it in a bit more, make it a little bit funky. And what I'm going to right click on here on the input pin of this tiling function, right click, click promote to parameter, get rid of that S, and I'm going to go to the tiling bit here, and I'm going to type layer -1 tiling near, and I'm going to simply, with it highlighted, hold control and D, and I'm just going to come into the name here on the left side of the details panel. I'm going to double click on the near word and just type far. So now I've got a near tiling, layer 1 near tiling, and a layer 1 far tiling. Don't worry about the rotation tiling for now, and don't worry about the values just for now. We will sort them out shortly. One thing we can introduce is the grouping for parameters. So if you click on your parameter like so, on the left hand side where your default values, slider, min and max are, below that you have a description. If you're unsure about anything I'm doing here in this shader graph, my first video on the shader playlist is about the UI in the shader graph, so I would recommend going over there and checking that out. But in the group section under material expressions, I'm going to simply highlight that and delete none and just put layer -1 parameters like so, and then the near tiling and far tiling, I'm going to set this priority there underneath the group, set priority as 1, and this will just give it an order, and then for the far I'm going to give it a 2 like so. And moving on from there, so what we need to do now is basically lerp these texture sets together. So what I am going to do is go to each out pin of these, keeping note here this ORD texture has a red, green and blue channel. I want you to keep note of that. So carrying on holding left alt, you just click on these out pins and just get rid of them needles. So like I say, what we need to do is lerp these together. So if you hold L on the keyboard, left click, you get a lerp or linear interpolate. You can right click on the graph and type line like that, and you will see the linear interpolate is there. It's the same thing. I'm going to use that, and we need one for each texture, not 6, just one to blend 2 textures together. So I'm going to Control and D and get a third lerp. And what I'm going to do is albedo 1 albedo near goes into A, and albedo far goes into B. The ORD texture goes into A, and the ORD texture from the far goes into B. You can use the RGB output of the lerp. We will be splitting out shortly. And then the normal goes into lerp A, and the normal goes into lerp B. Okay, so now each of these textures are blended together, which is awesome. I'm going to move them down closer to each other like so. What we need to do is for the albedo blend, we simply drag from the output of the lerp into base color. The output for the normal texture maps, we just drag into normal. And to get the red, green and blue channel out of the ORD texture sampler, you can simply either use a... I've commented that, I don't need to do that, just delete that. I think you can use a component, no, it's a comment again. You can right click and use component mask like so, and you could get 3 of them like so and set 1 to red, 1 to green and 1 to blue. You can use these component nodes and you could simply put it to there and simply into the input of each of these component masks, and then simply drag off here and then do your, you know, roughness and then into height. You can do it that way, but there's another way I prefer to do it, which is simply highlighting them and deleting them. You can drag off that pin and type break out of float free. What this does is just basically breaks out of this lerp node and gives you the red, green and blue channel like there, red, green and blue. It's the same as the component mask, the component component mask, sorry, a bit flustered, and just the same thing, but this is my preferred workflow. You're free to do it with the component mask as well. And so I'm going to drag this into ambient occlusion like so, and then the green channel is going to go into the roughness, and the blue channel will go into the cheap contrast of the layer 1 blending node if you like, and I'm simply just going to drag that there. And what this will do now is blend the textures together, and it's just created a layer, which is great. But you're probably thinking, well, that's great and all, but they'll just be the same, which is correct. So what I am going to do is just drag this out a couple of clicks. This is how clean and tidy I like to work. And to blend these together based off the camera, Unreal Engine has its own node, which is a camera depth node, camera fade depth node, or function if you like. So you could simply, in the graph area, like so, just right click and type camera, like so, and you will see the camera depth fade function, and that will bring up a camera depth fade. And what this does is, it basically, as you can see to the left hand side here, if I highlight this, the further away I get, the whiter it is, and the closer I get to the sphere, the darker it gets, like so. So if I make this into a cube, use the corner, you can see the corner of the cube getting darker until the whole. And what this does, the black side is displaying one texture, and the white side displays the other set of texture samples, which is very useful. As you can see, I have to get really close. That's because I've not set any parameters on it yet, but we will do that shortly. And that's basically how the camera depth fade node works. So yeah, that's pretty awesome, isn't it? So what we will do with this camera depth fade, stop previewing it for one, I'm going to drag this out a bit. The result of the camera depth fade we will drag into the alpha of each of these layers, like so, and then into that alpha. I'm going to move these down because I do like things to be a little bit neat, a bit weird like that, you see. And then we need to give these parameters. So the fade length, if you like the function, the tiling function, if you right click on the fade length and promote that to a parameter, and I'm going to skip these, keeping my naming convention. This is up to you if you want to do this, this is just me. Layer -1 fade length, and that's that set. And then the fade offset, we will need that, so you right click on there and promote to parameter, get rid of that, keeping the naming convention. Very important, especially if working in a team, to keep some sort of naming convention that is the same as the whole team will use, like so. Very important, and then the whole team is not confused by someone else's naming convention, and blah 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 blah. Just going to move all this in a bit so it's a little bit neater, for me anyway, but we will be creating a function out of this in a future video. Yeah, I'm just going to move that down a bit, like so. Move this up. Okay, so that is basically that setup. So what we need to do is just hit apply on our landscape material, and then come back, and you can see now it is crazy. The tiling close is very high, the tiling far is the same. They're actually the same size in scale. What we need to do is click on the landscape itself in the 3D viewport, come down to the details panel and click the folder with a magnifying glass, and that'll bring up our instance. We double click that. For me it will open like this, it may not do for you, it may open like this. The reason it opens like that for me is because I changed that in the editor preferences. If you're not sure how to do that, then I have a video on the Getting Started series for Unreal Engine 5, so go and check that out if you want. Okay, so now we've got these highlighted, I'm quickly going to jump into my master material. As you can see, I've got these set in a group, which is layer 1 parameters. So I'm going to highlight these layer 1 and the blending and change this group to layer 1 parameters, like so, and just click apply. And what this does is it arranges them in arranges them into its own parameters. Why is that not? Oh, it's not in a group, that's why. So layer 1, click apply again, and now all the parameters I've set on this layer now have their own group there, which is awesome. So we're going to go back to our thingy, our landscape, and we're just going to these have already got the parameters set up. So tiling farm, I'm going to drop these back to normal so I can display what's going on. The blending there is set to 1. If I increase this blending, you can't hardly see it because of the tiling, but I'll just keep that 1 for now. So as you can see, our near tiling needs to be increased. Like so, you can see the near tiling is now coming up. You may see just in the distance that the tiling is also coming up with it, but I'm not sure. Am I changing the tiling far? Near tiling. Let's make this really big. I'm being a bit silly here, actually. I'm going to drop this down. The fade length for layer 1, I'm going to set this as, we're going to start with 25,000, and then the fade offset, I'm just going to set this with a 5. And now let's see if this changes now. So tiling near, just going to keep increasing this, and there we go, we get a bit of tiling just coming up. It's great, like that. Let's set this to a 4, 5, 6, it's quite big. Let's go back to a 4. So there, and you see in the distance that the tiling has not changed. So if I come to the layer 1 tiling file and just raise this all the way up, like so, keep going. I reckon it'll hit about 10 and you'll start seeing some changes. Oh no, it's bigger than that. As you can see now in the distance on the mountain and over here on these painted bits that I did, you can keep increasing it and it will change the scale of the tiling on the distant mountains. I'm going to keep this around a 25, like so. You'll still see tiling repetition, maybe I'll set it to 50. It's a little bit better. Keep it on 50 for now. But as you can see, the tiling for this area is smaller, and you can increase the tiling. That's a near. As you can see, there's a little bit of rotation. That is not rotation of the actual tiling, that is just basically because of the texture itself. So in future videos I will be breaking all this up properly so it looks a little less like, oh look at me, I'm dead repetitive, blah blah blah. But yeah, and that's it. And it is, if I move closer to this alcove you see here, this side of this little hill, so if you watch this down here now and watch this how it starts to change based off camera distance, there you go, it's starting to change now. And there you go. If I come over to the mountain, let's go a bit quicker. You're watching this lake we created in the first video for landscapes. Starts to change, and there it's based off that camera depth node. As you can see, the tiling starts to change. Obviously the tiling is still repetitive, but that will be changed. I just thought we'd add this bit of tiling in first before we add the rest in. And that's that. We'll keep them set at stone. What we can do, I don't know why that's there. What we can do is use these numbers we've got here and come back to our landscape material, come into our parameters like so. As you can see, tiling near and tiling near, and we could set these. I'm going to put this as 4.3 like so. and that's what the tiling name is going to be. So we click on our parameter, come to our default value, which is 4.3, and just for me, for personal reasons, it's just my workflow, I put 0.0001. If you've watched previous videos, you know that already. And then I'm going to set this a max of 10. Yeah, and that's giving me defaults there. That's fine. And then the tiling far I've got set to 50. I'm going to put this at 50 default, and then I'm going to press tab on the keyboard to move to the next one. The minimum I'm going to put as 10, and the maximum I'm going to set as 100. This just gives the artist plenty of room to maneuver his abilities, if you like. Okay, what's next? Layer 1 blending. If we go to layer 1 blend, layer 1 blending is already set up and ready to go. So yeah, what I'm going to do is click apply and click save, go back to my environment, and as you can landscape physical material needs to be rebuilt. That's just a standard thing, it normally goes, but if you come to the top here, click on build, and there you go, it goes. Oh no, it's back. Come to the top, click on build, and if you move down to the landscape category, and you'll see build physical material only, click on that and it should disappear that. So yeah, as it stands, that is a decent set of parameters for layer 1, tiling near and tiling far. Dead simple to set up, as you can see, and if I move away from that patch, it gets bigger and bigger, and now I get close to that patch, the tiling gets smaller and smaller. So yeah, before this video gets too long and too crazy, it's like hours long, for the first time on this channel, I'm going to give you some homework, if you like. This is the first time on this channel. As you can see in this tutorial, we have set this up, layer up, like so. Let's just close this instance down, click save. Always keep in mind to save your scene as often as you can, because you get random crashes. Believe it or not, in this tutorial I've had a random crash. I'm not sure if you will be able to tell, because I've not come round to editing the video just yet. But yeah, I've had a random crash. So it's always good to save your scene as much as you can, and in your content browser, come to save all and click on that and press OK if it comes up. So yeah, so as you can see in this material now, we have tiling set up, one layer set up ready with distant tiling, and your homework, guys, if you want to, is going to be set this up the same for layer 2. Now I'll give you a little tip. Everything in layer 1 will be exactly the same as layer 2. The only difference is the naming conventions of your parameters. So you could simply, if you wanted, delete them and copy and paste this and put it there, and all you have to do is change where it says layer 1, double click the 1 and put layer 2, and there's something else you'll have to do to separate the parameters from the layer 1 parameter set in the material instance. So yeah, I'll give you that challenge. If you want to complete that challenge, that is completely up to you, and if you do, join the Discord and post your take an image that you've copied it and post it into the general chat, or share your Unreal Engine section of the Discord and tag me in it if you want. It's up to you, but at the minute this is all it's going to be for this tutorial for distance tiling. I hope this was helpful to you, and in the next video we are going to be talking about rotating the textures to give the tiling of your scene a bit more randomization. That's a wrong key. And hopefully if you do your homework, your tiling for the grass layer or whatever layer you've got, the texture you're using will be the same as this. So yeah, I hope all goes well, and I hope you post into the Discord to show, and I shall see you in the next video where we will be covering the rotation, and we probably will go a bit more deeper into tiling on the landscape. So yeah, hopefully you join me on the next video. So go ahead and click your subscribe and give us a like and tell all your friends. I'll see you again.